A ripple of static rolled through the alien War Council chamber as their silver banners unfurled above hundreds of officers, each one raised from birth to believe their species had perfected the art of destruction. Their admirals stood tall, armored plates gleaming like surgical blades, boasting of formations so flawless they claimed even probability itself bowed to them. Generations of conquest had carved that arrogance deep into their bones, and tonight's victory ceremony only fed it. Another species defeated. Another border absorbed. Another declaration that no mind in the galaxy understood war better than they did. Humans were mentioned only once, brushed aside as emotional, reckless primitives who fought like cornered animals instead of strategists. The celebration cut short when a trembling officer interrupted the hall with an alert. Anomalous object on long-range scans. Approaching fast. The council dismissed it at first, until the officer added one unsettling phrase: transponder identifies as human. The room shifted. Human ships were unpredictable but never bold enough to enter Imperial territory alone. The projection bloomed into view, sleek, obsidian hull, almost featureless, carrying a name that made several officers laugh aloud. Peace Class. To them, it sounded like a child naming a blade comfort. Humans, they said, were always trying to make themselves look harmless. Yet something bothered them. No weapon signatures. No shield fluctuations. No energy spikes. It drifted forward with quiet purpose, moving in a pattern that ignored every standard vector of combat positioning. As if it didn't consider them a threat. As if it didn't consider the possibility of battle at all. The admirals waved off concerns and ordered their fleets to intercept. 500 ships moved with synchronized precision, locking the human vessel in a tactical triangle designed to suffocate any enemy without firing a shot. The human ship didn't respond. Didn't flinch. Didn't even adjust its orientation. It simply hovered in the void as though waiting for something far beneath its notice. The calmness irritated the alien commanders. They began shouting orders, demanding power reads, demanding explanations for why they still couldn't detect weapon ports or heat signatures. Their scanners kept returning absurd data, zero reaction time, movement predictions that made no physical sense, interference patterns that scrambled their immaculate systems. Finally, a transmission came through. A single human voice. Calm. Controlled. Not even raised enough to sound like a challenge. You may fire the first shot, the voice said. We'll end the war before the second. For a moment, no one breathed. The aliens assumed it was human bravado. They smirked, mocking the tone, dismissing the warning as a desperate bluff from a foolish species trying to look dangerous. Their admiral ordered all ships to stand by for coordinated fire. One officer hesitated, noting that the human vessel had positioned itself knowingly within the deadliest angle of their combined barrage, as though it already accounted for the volley. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded immediate attack to teach the humans a lesson. Others urged caution. Something felt wrong. But pride drowned hesitation. They were the masters of war. Their models predicted a clean victory. Their strategies had never failed. And no species with such an embarrassingly harmless-sounding ship name could possibly threaten them. Yet beneath their arrogance, a subtle fear spread. The human ship's silent stillness felt intentional. Purposeful. As though every second that passed shifted the balance of control. The admirals scrambled to make sense of its unreadable systems, but every scan returned the same empty answer: no weapons, no shields, no conventional tech. It might as well have been a ghost. The human voice returned. We don't need to strike you, it said. All we need to do is show you what a real conflict looks like. The aliens snarled at the insult. Their fleets tightened formation. Their admiral raised his arm to deliver the firing command. But before the order could be completed, every ship's targeting system flickered. Not damaged, redirected. Their displays jittered as coordinates shifted without warning. Engines stuttered. Shield grids misaligned. In the council chamber, panic began spreading between the cracks of their pride. And still, the human ship did not fire. The human captain's voice, steady as ever, echoed one final time. You trained to master war, he said. But humans learned something different. Something far more dangerous: how to end war before it begins. The alien officers stared at the projection of the silent peace-class vessel hanging in the void, calm, confident, untouched. Every calculation they relied on had failed. Every assumption they held shattered. They had prepared for force, aggression, weapons, destruction. They had never prepared for an enemy who fought without fighting, who moved without moving, who won without striking. Their admiral clenched his jaw, fury trembling through his tendons as the realization set in. This wasn't a human bluff. It was a human warning. And the real battle hadn't even started yet. The alien formation tightened until 500 warships formed a flawless cage around the human vessel. Every alien officer believed this would be quick, one coordinated strike, one instant victory. They whispered predictions of how fast the human ship would break apart, how satisfying it would be to prove their supremacy again. But the peace class didn't react. It hovered with unsettling calm, drifting just enough to make the aliens doubt their own senses. No weapon ports. No shield hum. No threat at all, yet no fear either. Inside the alien flagship, the admiral barked the order to fire. But the instant their weapons charged, every targeting display glitched. Coordinates dissolved into impossible curves. Trajectories recalculated faster than their computers could follow. The alien gunners shouted in confusion, nothing aimed where it was supposed to. The ship's systems weren't just jammed, they were being outthought. The human vessel shifted a few degrees, its motion so smooth and anticipatory it looked like it already knew the aliens' next 100 decisions. A calm human voice finally came through. Not hostile. Not panicked. Simply confident. "This ship doesn't fire weapons," the captain said. "Astrius calculates outcomes. It predicts your moves minutes ahead. You can't hit us, because you decided your attacks before you understood the battlefield." Alien frustration cracked into panic as the first volley misfired, rounds veering into empty space where the peace class had been long before the aliens even pulled the trigger. Every shot landed wrong. Every maneuver counted before it began. Entire squadrons lost thrust as their engines powered down without warning, disabled with surgical precision by systems they didn't even see activate. No explosions. No casualties. Just humiliation. In minutes, their perfect formation shattered, ships drifting powerless, caught in confusion while the human vessel remained untouched. The admiral demanded to know what invisible weapon the humans used. The reply cut deep: no weapon. Just correction. The moment you prepared for battle, you'd already lost. The peace class released pulses of energy, each one targeting a non-lethal subsystem. Alien shields folded. Communications scrambled. Weapon cores went dormant like obedient pets. Their warships weren't destroyed, they were dismissed. The Empire's greatest fleet, silenced without a single human shot fired. Officers who once mocked humanity now stared with hollow shock, realizing this was no bluff. Their centuries of strategy, doctrine, and discipline meant nothing against an enemy who refused to play the game. They weren't fighting war. They were facing inevitability. As the last alien cruiser lost power, the human captain spoke again, voice steady and cold. "This is what real war looks like when it's over before it begins." The aliens, stripped of control, finally understood the nightmare truth: humans didn't need overwhelming firepower. They only needed to be right once. And Astrius was always right. The alien council erupted into chaos as word spread that their fleet had been neutralized without a single casualty. Admirals shouted over one another, accusations flying. The humans had cheated, manipulated fate, bent physics. Younger officers trembled, unable to reconcile the collapse of doctrines honed over centuries. Every model, every simulation, every prediction they trusted was now meaningless. Humans had introduced a variable they couldn't calculate, a species that acted without rules, that thrived on unpredictability, that survived by embracing chaos instead of controlling it. Through the comms, the human captain's voice returned, calm, measured, almost philosophical. "You trained to master war, yet you forgot to master understanding. Your fleets fail not because you lack skill, but because you believe control is the same as power. Humans learn survival, not perfection. Predictable strategy leads to predictable failure. The council froze, unable to respond. They had prided themselves on flawless coordination, and now they realized that rigidity had become their weakness. Debate split the ranks. Some younger officers whispered admiration, secretly marveling at the ingenuity. Others raged, insisting humans must be destroyed before their example spread. The older generals, the architects of the empire, finally understood the cost of arrogance. Every calculation Astrius had projected confirmed that unless they adapted, their species would collapse under their own hubris. Astrius displayed simulations across every holographic panel, centuries of predicted conflicts ending in extinction. Not from humans' weapons, not from open attack, but from the inevitable consequences of alien overconfidence. The humans had forced them to confront a mirror, a reflection of everything their civilization had become. Every officer felt it. The Empire's greatest threat wasn't technology, nor strength, nor even humans. It was themselves. Finally, the human captain delivered the final statement, calm and uncompromising. Talk peace now, or watch your entire future collapse exactly as predicted. Your choice. Silence fell. Pride, fear, and awe mixed together, leaving no space for debate. The council understood the truth. Victory by force was no longer possible. Humans had redefined power, not by destruction, but by understanding, by anticipation, and by turning arrogance into its own undoing. The alien council, humbled and fearful, finally voted to surrender without firing a shot. Centuries of conquest ended not in a blaze of glory, but in quiet acknowledgement of human supremacy. Officers who once mocked humanity now sought guidance, requesting negotiations aboard the peace-class vessel. The human captain agreed, but made it clear, this was not a celebration of victory. It was a lesson in restraint, in strategy beyond brute force, and in the strength of understanding over weapons. The aliens boarded the ship expecting terrifying armaments and destructive power. Instead, they found calm corridors, classrooms, gardens, and meditation chambers. Astrius, the AI, explained that the vessel's greatest weapon was not missiles or lasers, but the ability to project thought, predict behavior, and shape outcomes without violence. For the first time, alien officers realized that humans fought battles differently, not by dominating, but by forcing opponents to confront their own flaws and miscalculations. The human captain addressed the humbled council, voice steady and commanding. Humans did not master war. We mastered understanding. We survive not by being perfect, but by knowing ourselves, knowing our enemy, and acting unpredictably when it matters most. True power lies in ending conflict before it begins. The aliens absorbed the words, their pride shattered yet enlightened. As treaties were signed and ships prepared to depart, the alien admiral muttered under his breath, "Humans terrify me." The captain, standing with quiet confidence, replied, "Good. Peace works best when everyone fears to start a fight." The peace-class vessel drifted silently into the void, undefeated, untouchable, and a reminder that humanity's greatest strength lay not in weapons, but in mind, strategy, and the courage to act beyond expectation.